Board Games Anonymous, the podcast of board gamers and the insane fun we have at the table together. This is Chris.
Hey, this is Anthony.
And this is episode 456, the 2023 Year in Review. We'd like to thank all our Patreon backers for helping us bring you a brand new episode. All right, friends, welcome back to the table. And of course, it's been an amazing year at the table with some amazing games. So we thought for this episode, we take a look back at 2023.
Yeah, we gotta. So, I know you're all waiting for our game of the year. With bated breath, nobody else's game of the year is as important as our game of the year.
So, I mean, that's the word around here in my house.
That's what I've heard.
That's what people are saying around the kitchen table.
I have actually, not jokingly, I've heard people tell me that they appreciate that we pick things that other places don't normally pick. So generally, much heavier games that are not in that 2.8 to 3.3 range that every game of the year winner tends to be.
Yeah.
And
also a lot of independent games too.
Yeah. So it's not always just like this new Fantasy Flight game or this new. I mean, sometimes, but not always.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to it, but I don't even know what our game of the year is yet. So, we honestly, we gave ourselves a couple extra weeks on it because there's just a couple of other games we want to get to the table before we make our decision. There was so much good stuff that's here.
Yes, good stuff, long stuff, heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, just a diversity of really good different themes in board gaming. So we want to make sure that we get as much of that as the table as possible so that we can give you the definitive board game awards, according to, again, people around my kitchen table.
Kitchen table. That's what matters most.
It is. And I'm assuming my kitchen table is like everyone else's kitchen table. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really big board game table.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
My kitchen table. You've played at my kitchen table. It's enormous.
That's right. a lot of games hitting that table. Not much food, but a lot of games.
No.
You can eat over the sink. It's fine. It's fine.
It's games and Legos, and we eat in the other room.
There you go. So, yeah, no, we'll have that coming up for you really soon. So we're getting all those great games in. If by chance you want to let us know about a game that maybe we haven't gotten to or want to recommend something to get to the table, just hit us up and let us know. Social media is everywhere, and especially our website, boardgamersanonymous.com, our Patreon account. Just a lot of ways to get to us. Our Discord, I don't know, Facebook, Twitter /X/ I don't know what's going to be next week. Whatever it might be. And again, as always, the kitchen table.
Yes. All the kitchen tables.
All the kitchen tables out there that substitute as a game table.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, as we do every year, we do this every year. We go through at the beginning of the year, we have our most anticipated list, usually about 50 games or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the year, we go back through that list and say, what came out? What is never coming out? What did we play? What have we never going to play? All the things, right? Before we get into all that, though, it's also kind of fun just to look at the year as a whole. And this year was unique for us, at least, right? It was, on one hand, getting back to game conventions in a way that we haven't in a long, long time. But on the other hand, board game academics kind of taking off, doing all the things. Right?
All the things, man.
Yeah, so we launched Board Game Academics last February and have our call for submissions. We got about 25, 30 submissions from various people around the world who wanted to share their academic research about board games. And we held our first conference for that at Gen Con, which, aside from everything else, we hadn't been back to Gen Con in 4 years or 5 years. And that was amazing, being able to be there and meet these people and share their research with the world. And now, right now, as we're speaking, I have the final versions of these articles are coming in from the authors, right? So they're due, I think, next week. So I think I have half of them in right now. So final review, final editorials happening in January. We will be publishing in February, exactly 1 year from when we started. It's been crazy. It's been a lot of work, but it's been amazing to meet all these different people that I never met before who were doing academic research in board games, to travel to different places. We went to Long Island Tabletop Expo. We went to Gen Con. Will and I went to Toronto and Serious Play Conference. And just meeting all these different people and sharing our work.
Mm-hmm.
a completely different way of engaging with the hobby than
Yes.
any of us ever have, and it's been really, really interesting and fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I remember last PAX, we were going around talking to publishers, designers, gamers out there about board game academics, getting a lot of great feedback from so many different people, diverse backgrounds, educations, experiences. A lot of people who just know that tabletop gaming, whether it's board games, card games, role playing games, miniature games, 18 double X or war games or any other number of those kind of combinations, has a lot of impact and can say a lot about the world. And those games themselves are a distillation of the world in themselves. So when you play them, there's something meaningful that's taking place. And Anthony, I just shared with you recently, the New Yorker had an article
Mm.
about tabletop gaming, kind of like a, I don't know, how would you define it? I think you had a good take on it.
Yeah, like it read like a. I mean, it was a profile of Amabel Holland,
Yes.
who is the owner and operator of Hollandspiel,
Hmm.
and they make a ton of games, just
Yes.
so many games. And most recently, you probably saw the one on Board Game Geek that was up there. And forgive me, I can't remember the exact name, but it was like a smoking game, but it was about being the people promoting the cigarettes. So
Yeah.
going through the actions of making those marketing campaigns and seeing what that looks like, which is one of my most I don't like doing it, but it's the most interesting aspect of gaming is when you ask people to do something, to take agency over an action that is
Yes.
fundamentally uncomfortable to do.
Yeah.
Um, in a thoughtful, satirical way, right? So, anyways, it was a really interesting article, kind of showing Amabel's path as a game designer and what they do, and how they're more than just a designer, and this is like a cultural touchstone, and we're having commentary about various things in the world. Um, and also, the author brought in a lot of other people. There was quotes in there from Elizabeth Hargrave and Isaac Childress and a bunch of other designers.
Hmm.
Highly recommend checking it out. It reminded me like of the kind of assignments I had my students do, of just like profile somebody, but also tell a larger story that represents something about the topic you're talking about, which I feel like it did really well.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing, which is odd. I mean, strange and different and yet wonderful, is that we're seeing so much coverage about tabletop gaming from journalists and media organizations, and again, obviously scholars out there who are taking it up in a different way and examining it. And I think even us and our friends in the media are also doing the same. I've seen some very thoughtful reviews from several of our media friends out there, uh thinking about the, I guess, the political, the cultural, the social effects of tabletop gaming. What does it mean to interact and play in a game? When is it appropriate? When it's not appropriate? When is it too much overreaction? When it's too little? Like what, who are we as a community when we interact with these games? And again, like the New Yorker article talked about, it's interactive art. And I think that we can say, and again, arguably, it's high art, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, that discussion's been going on about video games for many years. But I mean, playing games, tabletop games, or games in general, I mean, it's essential to our culture. It's essential to us as human beings. I mean, we play. That's what it is to be human, to play, to interact, to create worlds and rules and systems, right? Society's made up of all those things that initially came from play.
absolutely. Yeah, it's Huizinga says play is older than culture,
Yes.
right? It predates all the other things that we talk about,
Hmm.
and it doesn't even have to be done well. It just has to be done in a
Sure.
thoughtful, intentional way. I think when it's intentional, which is what we get with hobby board games and designer focused games, which is why it's always worrisome when you have these big companies coming in and telling their designers what to do, is because you lose that authorial approach. But it is authored, and therefore it is art, and therefore
Yes.
it is representative of the culture, and people engage with that art. It's interactive in a way that no other art can be, right?
Yes.
The art doesn't exist until everybody sits down and engages with it.
100%.
And that's unique in a way that almost no other forms are. So
Yes.
that's why I'm fascinated about it. That's what I like to study. It's cool to see
100%.
other people finally doing
Yes, and like you said, I mean, art is there to be engaged with and challenged and boundaries broken, and but the valuable part, and I think we talked about this previously, and I know there's been endless amounts of scholarship and talk about their like death of the author, right?
Hmm.
Uh where is the author in their work, right?
Hmm.
In that work. When it comes to gaming, the author is there, right? They create the game,
Right.
but we're also part of that, right? We're part of that creation, are the pathways that we take, the roles that we
Right.
play out.
Yeah. It cannot exist without us.
Yes.
Right. A book still exists. A movie still exists. A piece of
Yes.
artwork on the wall still exists. And you could argue that it doesn't really exist in meaning until somebody observes it, which I would agree with. But the game is just a box full of stuff
Yeah.
until somebody plays it.
It has to be played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's those interactions. And it's sometimes you have those interactions and you're like, that was beautiful. You can have that reaction. That was a beautiful engagement. That was a beautiful
Mhm.
memory that I just created out of these pieces of cardboard and plastic. Like what else do you get that from?
It's true. Very true. So there's a lot of greatness here in 2023, Anthony. Great year for BGA. Great year for all our friends out there. It's been great to seeing all of you, especially at Gen Con and PAX. We're hoping to be at more conventions, more locations this upcoming year. The journal will be out this
Hmm.
year, so you get
Yep.
to read all that kind of fun stuff. And myself, you know, Anthony, Will, and so many of other people that are part of the podcast will be at different events and programs. And we really do and sincerely hope to join you at the table. So, Anthony, with all that said, let's talk about the year in review, 2023.
Let's do it. So we got 50 games
What?
ish. I didn't count, but I try to have 50 because then I have like a list of 50 on the website, and Google really likes it when you have 50 things. So we are also slaves to SEO. What are
That's
you gonna
right.
do?
Yeah, so we rarely ever say this, but please like, subscribe, add a review wherever you're listening to this. It's silly. Everyone asks you to do it, but it does make all the difference in the world. Or tell a publisher about us. Again,
Yeah.
makes a big impact, allows us to get out there to more people, and then allows more people to get to the table because they learn about great games. They learn about how great gaming is. So please, for the holiday season, give us the gift of clicking a button and especially writing a review and or join us on Patreon if you can.
Oh my gosh, the reviews would be amazing. Yeah, like Spotify, especially if you're in there, amazing. Please,
Please.
we love
Santa,
you.
come on, Santa.
We're not begging, but we just want to say we appreciate it if you
It does. It means a
share
lot
your
to us
thoughts.
too. Yeah, because again, on our side, you can't see us, but we're talking into microphones out into the universe. So it's
Yeah,
always nice to know that there's intelligent life out there in the universe that says, "Hey, that was cool." And again, it warms our hearts, especially during this holiday season.
absolutely.
Mhm.
All right. So speaking of warming hearts, let's talk
Aw,
about some games that
love them.
warm our hearts.
Yay.
Although the first three on this list from last year are all about space, so they're not very warm.
Oh.
I know. Two of them are not out yet either, so it'll be relatively quick. First up, we had Andromeda's Edge. This was the Dwellings of Eldervale, but in space.
Yes.
Dwellings of Eldervale was out of print forever. Still, I think, hard to find. I
It,
don't know why this company cannot print enough copies of this game.
I think it still is.
Yeah.
It came back into print, and then I remember people being like, "Dear God, get on there and buy it before it goes out of print," and then it went out of print again.
They're like on their third or fourth printing, and it just sells out immediately. So I still don't have a copy.
I don't have a copy either.
It's the only game in my top 100 I don't own because I can't
Yeah,
find it.
same.
So there's that. But I did back Andromeda's Edge, and eventually I'll have that, and I'll just swap it in. I'll be like, okay, this is in the top 100 now, and not this one because I own this one.
Yeah.
Assuming the game is good. It has not shipped yet. It doesn't look like it's going to anytime soon. It's a big game, so but they're moving along in production. They have, their most recent update was like, here's our game trays, so that's fun. Next year, this will be on our list for next year. We'll talk about it at the end of next year.
I backed this as well. I didn't have all the monies to back Dwellings, so I would have if I had all the monies. But I hope it does come back into print because I will pick it up. I probably will pick it up unless Andromeda's Edge is like coming that week or is so amazing that I'm like, okay, I'm stopped buying games. I'm done.
Yeah.
Uh, I really do. I love Dwellings, and if this could be Dwellings in space with some better tweaks to the system, it'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
If We don't know, but we hope so.
That's what I'm hoping for. Sometimes that does not happen. So here's what that's what I'm hoping for. Next up, we had Arcs. This was on Kickstarter. This was the new Cole Worley game.
Hmm.
Also not out yet, and that's all we really know about it. It's like a quasi campaign legacy style 4XE type of space game, and it's Cole Worley, so it's probably even weirder than that sounds.
Yeah,
They had like a little version you could kind of preview at PAX, but we didn't
yeah.
really get a chance to do that. So it's coming later this year. I will get it. It will probably go on the shelf next to Oath as a game that's very hard to get played, but that looks very cool.
Well, you backed it,
I did.
so
Yeah.
that's good. So hopefully I'll get to play it. That's because
Yeah.
I was on the fence. I was gonna back this, and I was like, again, in some ways, this last year and a half or next year and a half or so is all space kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, where the bees come into play. So I was like, how much of this do I really want? But it's probably going to be great, and I'll probably regret not backing it. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. I always feel great when I make you feel bad. No, I don't feel great.
It's like, ah,
Yeah. Like, oh, sorry, man. This game was pretty good. Um, Next up is Voidfall. This one did come out. I have this. I played it famously over a course of 4 episodes, learning the game and playing the game. I love it. I gave it a buy, in as much as anybody could buy it because it's impossible to find. But uh, it's big, it's long, it has too many rules, it has too many modes. But
yes.
when you get it all working and you finally figure it all out, it's very good.
I mean, at some point, we're going to have to do a sci-fi 4X episode, right? Because there'll be, maybe a year from now.
I honestly, yeah, because for a long time we had two, right? We had Twilight
Yeah.
Imperium and uh,
Eclipse.
Eclipse, and now there's a bunch more.
Yeah.
So, all right. Next up, we have Rolling Heights. This is
Hmm.
the John D. Clare game from AEG, in which you are building these little towers of cubes and rolling dice. And it, I don't know, it came, it went. People are like, it's fine. Neither of us backed this, right?
No.
So it's not one we've played or talked about, and it's not one that's really hit anybody's top of the year list. So it's a game.
It had a lot of visual appeal to it, and I know that they marketed it pretty hard. So I was surprised that to this day I've not seen it at a meetup, and I have not heard about it from anybody really.
No. Yeah, I thought it would do better. Like, because they have other little weird odd games like Cubitos and stuff like
Yeah,
that people really like. And I thought this would kind of fall into that category, but it has not.
it looks like it would. I just don't
Right?
know why I haven't seen this anywhere for some reason. I'll be honest with you, like this came out. I guess
Hmm.
this came out. Just haven't
It
seen it.
it did come out, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll play it someday and be like, that's fine.
yeah,
That's a 7. That's fine.
yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Pompero. This is the game about windmills
Hmm.
from Ape Games. So it's designed by Julian Pombo, who previously worked on Mercado de Lisboa, which I thought was fine.
Hmm.
They also worked on the solo mode for Lisboa and CO2. So they are Vitalis Cerda acolyte. They work with
Yes.
them. They are on Vitalis Cerda's Discord getting playtesters for their games. So I am excited about this. I have a copy pre-ordered. It has not arrived yet, but I believe it's very close to being available.
Mm.
They're in the process of shipping, if not now, soon. Um, so I think the production's currently underway, but it's not clear when we're getting these games. But sometime in the next 2 to 3 months. But it looks good.
Yeah, it's Ian tool. So
Pretty artwork. Yep.
that's that's pretty much all you have to say. Like, got it. Windmills and Ian tool. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. It's a game about green energy made with the artwork by one of the best game artists in the world. So
Yes.
yes, I'm all about it. Next up, we have the Artemis Odyssey. It's designed by Bruno Faiduti and Sergei Laget from Grand Gamers Guild. And so this is like a quasi sequel to the first Artemis game, the Artemis Project,
Hmm.
which I played, and I cannot remember what I thought of that game, which is not a good sign. Like, you play a game, you're like, I don't remember. But this is a remake of Ad Astra, which came
Hmm.
out back in 2009, which I've also played, and I also can't remember what I thought of that game. So I think it's just a meh.
Yeah.
I don't know why we put it on the most anticipated, unless I was just trying to hit the 50. But uh, the Artemis Project was good, so that probably had something to do with it. And the artwork looks cool.
Yeah. And it's great designers.
Yeah, yeah. Next up is Atiwa, which when we did the list last year, we had both played because it was at PAX.
Mhm.
I went on to pick it up, and I've played it a whole bunch, and it's actually moved into my top 100.
Oh,
I really, really like this
I
Uwe Rosenberg game. I know you were kind of cool on it, right?
it's fine. I didn't think it was a bad game whatsoever. I just thought it was fine. I think you're a little biased because there's Batman in the
Yeah,
game.
there are
Yeah.
bats everywhere. I love the bat meeples. It's like my
The
favorite
Bat
meeples I've ever
Meeples
seen.
are awesome. I can't remember the last time other than a Batman game that I've seen Bat Meeples.
I love bat meeples, and honestly, the game at its core is about sustainability.
Yeah.
So it's a good theme on top of everything else.
Mhm.
It's like agriculture, sure, like all of his games, but in a sustainable way, which I think is interesting. Um, it will we'll talk about it more in a couple weeks with our most favorite games of the year. It's on my top 10 for the year. Next up, we have Scholars of the South Tigris. This is the new Shem uh, Phillips game, and there's a new one every year. So there you
There is.
go. We got another one. This is the in the Tigris trilogy, though. So we had the North Sea, and then the West Kingdom, and now South Tigris kind of trilogy of games. This one is like I think kind of deck buildy, bag buildy. But the thing about the Shem Phillips games is they keep getting like progressively more complex.
Yes.
So this one now is up to a 4 rating, and I'm sure it's not actually a 4. It's just the
Nah.
people who like his games are like, "Wow, this is heavy." But every game they release seems to be just slightly more complex,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason, despite that, I'm always a little less interested. So I don't know. I think Paladins was like my peak, and I'm like, I like this, and everything else is meh.
Yeah, I haven't played this, but I'm looking forward to playing this because I think this might be the one for me as far as, like, meeting my kind of crunchy credentials.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
All right, next one is a terrible one. Copan Dying City.
Mm.
So this was Holy Grail Games, and they famously had to shutter their doors and close shop back in February.
Yep.
Um, and so this game, which was previously crowdfunded, basically does not exist. It's vaporware. It's
Ah,
never going to be
jeez.
published. I don't know that they even got it printed. So
Yeah.
it's not even like it's sitting somewhere waiting to be delivered. It just doesn't exist.
That's not good.
No, the game looked good. I'd actually pre-ordered a copy, so that's some money off into the ether
Oh,
for
no.
for the great money gods. My money's somewhere in a bankruptcy court right now.
Oh,
So,
jeez.
but one of two games this year that is definitely dead.
Well, we're gonna take a slow boat to China and get that game, just saying.
Yeah, it didn't even make our list this year. We gave up on putting it on the list.
Ah.
We're talking about Madeira. Like that game is dead, dead, dead. So it's been an interesting year for heavier games dying on the
Look,
vine.
we get a bunch of backers, and we do a heist. And the heist is from
Yes,
Madeira, and we get all the Madeiras, and we give them to all the good boys and girls out there.
yes, yeah, because that one does exist. They printed it and now they can't ship it. So uh sucks.
Yeah, if you happen to be a big time investor in things, there's a great board game out there that's printed and waiting to be shipped
Yeah.
to us all out there who backed it.
Pick it up, get it. Don't charge me a fortune for shipping. I will take my game, please.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Next up we have Tabriz. This is the new game from Randy Flynn, who designed Cascadia. So this was on GameFound, and I did back this, and to my knowledge, it doesn't exist yet. So they started mass production in November, so it should probably arrive sometime in the late spring. But it looks interesting. Like Randy Flynn has made a lot of really good games. Cascadia is one of my favorites. I'm excited for this one as well when it arrives,
Yeah, it
whenever
looks
that is.
great. Looks really like a lot of fun.
Next up, we have Empire's End. So this, I believe, is another John D. Clare game. So the second one that we put on the list. This time from Brotherwise, and a little bit lighter this time. So this is a Civ game um, that I don't like. I know we talked about it, and I know we put it on this list, but I know we both also were like, "Eh,
Yeah,
seems a little light
it
for what we
was.
would want from this type of game."
Yeah, I think I did a acquisition disorder on this because we were both looking forward to this. We both like Civilization games, and the artwork looked great, looked like a lot of fun, and then it at least seemed, have not played it yet, but at least seemed substantially on the lighter side as far as making interesting decisions. A game
Hmm.
could be light and excellent, but you got to make interesting decisions, and this one seemed to be a lot of like flipping over certain cards in your tableau, and that's about the size of it.
Yeah,
So seemed like Majesty. Do you remember that game where you had like
yeah,
the line of, yeah? That's, it seems similar in kind of mechanics and scope.
yeah.
So
Yep,
yeah.
that's a good description, I think.
Mhm.
All right, next up we have First in Flight. This is a game about early aviation, so kind of like a press your luck element as you kind of try to build the first airplanes. Um, it was designed by Matthew O'Malley and Ben Rossett, who worked together on a lot of stuff. Most famously, The Search for Planet X, which is the top 100 ranked game, but also Between Two Cities, The Search for Lost Species, lots of stuff. So this one, I believe, came out. You can buy it. Did not
Oh.
hear much about it. Uh, it is it was kickstarted, and you think you would hear more about it as people got their copies, but it's kind of petered out, unfortunately. So
Aw.
reviews came out about 2-3 months ago. I haven't had a chance to track it down and play it yet, but it looks interesting.
Mhm.
I like these designers.
Yeah, same.
Next up, we had Fit to Print. This is the new one from the publishers behind Cascadia, and it was like a real time newspaper building type thing,
Yeah,
which
Galaxy
like both of
Trucker.
us said meh to.
Yeah. The artwork is good. I think it's also Unreal Tool, if I remember correctly, and the graphic design looks good, and the concept about building the newspaper sounds good, and then it comes down to a lot of just random luck as far as flipping the tiles and getting the certain spots. And again, I haven't played it, so I can't really critique it in any particular way, but that's what I saw when they did the kind of the preview and the demos and the videos that I watched. And then a lot of the reviews that came out for it was like there was certain kind of random mechanics as far as scoring was concerned that people felt just detracted from the game as a whole.
Right. Yeah, the vibe of it all overall didn't really grab me, and then
Mhm.
obviously didn't follow through. Um, Next up, we have Imperium Horizons. This is the third release in the Imperium set from Nigel Buckle and David Turczi. It doesn't exist yet. It now says 2024, so that's going on next year's list.
Okay.
Imperium's great, but this is not out yet.
Aw.
I know. They're all fully compatible with each other though, which is very cool. So if you have one of them, you can get more. It's just basically an expansion.
Sure.
Futures Future Energy,
Uh-huh.
sorry, is the next one. This was a re-implementation of Pioneers, um, which was a game that came out kind of as the add-on to Merlin back in
Yeah.
the day.
Mhm.
So Queen ran there like, you can only get Merlin from Stefan Feld on Kickstarter. Also, we have this other game called Pioneers. It's whatever.
It's a whatever
Um,
game.
yeah, and it people treated it as such. It was actually pretty decent.
I
It wasn't
played it.
great.
Yeah, it
It
was
was
fine.
fine.
It was fine.
Um, and so this was like them being like, no, 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 it is good. Look, now it's like about green energy, and I think they ran this twice on two separate campaigns, and people did not care.
Yeah.
So um, didn't do great, and I don't know that it's necessarily shipped out yet, but it's people are not excited about it. I know that.
Yeah, I think honest good idea. Good idea to do interesting game about green energy. It just seemed very generic.
Right,
And if you're going to port over mechanics from another game, it should be a game that is exceptional except for the theme.
right.
Pioneers was okay. So, yes, it's a better theme, 100%. Rather do green energy stuff than pioneering any day of the week, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see when it's actually out. We get to play it, but I'm sure it's yet another 7.
Yeah.
So as these often are. Um, Next up we have Let's Go to
Where are we going?
Japan.
Oh,
To
okay.
Japan. We're going to Japan. It's designed by Josh Wood, who also did Santa Monica and Cat Lady for AG. So both
Uh-huh.
of those did pretty well. And it's a game about going on vacation to Japan, as one would imagine. It's not out yet. It now also says 2024, so it
Mm.
kind of got pushed out of the year. But we saw previews of this at PAX in 2022,
Yep.
and it was like, that looks interesting. The artwork looks really interesting,
Yeah.
and we don't really know much more about the game yet. A full year plus later,
Mm-hmm. And it
so
seems like they want to make this a series. Ergo, the odd "Let's go!" exclamation point to Japan.
right.
Not "Let's
That
go to
is
Japan." Let's go! Exclamation point to Japan with no
to Japan.
punctuation. Yeah, it makes
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't.
yeah. So someday we will go to Japan in this game,
That's right.
and it will be fine.
It might even be good. It's
It
possible.
could be good. It
Yeah.
could be good. All right. Next up, we have Daybreak.
Uh huh.
This is Matt Leacock's new game about combating the climate crisis. Um, so I backed this. I have it. It's downstairs. I haven't played it yet. Uh, it's cooperative, as one would expect from Leacock. And honestly, the only thing I know about the game, and the reason I think the reviews are not as good as it seems like they could be,
Mm-hmm.
is that the shipping was a nightmare.
Oh,
So they made everything sustainable. They removed all plastics from the production,
great.
but they didn't actually do a good job of replacing those plastics with fibers that could hold up to shipping.
Ooh,
So a lot of people's copies showed up pretty battered and bruised. Like my box is almost destroyed.
wow.
Um, so it's held together by tape.
Ah,
Uh, yeah, it's not great. So I think a lot of people are annoyed about that. I'm annoyed about that. I haven't really decided whether to pester them for a new box or copy yet because I don't know that it would do any good and it's just going to cost them money. But that's what happened there. I hope the game is good because I bought it because I want to be able to use it in my classes, but
mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet. Next up, Inventions: Evolution of Ideas. This was the new Battle Lacerda game, and we both didn't back this, right? We
We
both
both
not do
didn't
this.
back it. Yeah,
Yeah.
which
So
is
I think
unheard
after Weather
of.
Machine, I
Yeah,
know, but it's honestly it's Weather Machine's fault.
it
So
is.
yeah, because that game I backed sight unseen because I back all of his games, and then
Yeah,
I got it in, and I'm like, it's impossible to learn. Doesn't seem that great. It's a little convoluted. Inventions was giving me kind of the same vibe, and I was like, I'm just gonna not. So
yeah. It might be another one of his games he had in his back pocket for a while.
yeah, yep. So I we'll see. I hope it's not. I mean, I hope it is good for the people who backed it, but then I'll be annoyed that I didn't back it. So we'll see.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, that's true. All right. The Fox Experiment. This
Uh-huh.
was Elizabeth Hargrave's new game with Pandasaurus. I did back this one, and I got a chance to play it last week, so I haven't reviewed it yet because we're not doing reviews this week. Um, it is fine. So I give it a solid play. It's got a really cool mechanic in it where you're like drafting these different foxes and collecting these different dice and having these different modifiers and trying to piece together these different traits. That's all really cool. That is such a small, simple thing, and that is the whole game basically. And then all this extra stuff is built around it. So I could see a lot of people playing this, especially if they're like new-ish to the hobby, and be like, "This is amazing! It's really cool, and it shows science."
Mm.
But if you've played a lot of games, you're like, "That's it? Okay, I guess that's it." So, um, it's got little like dry erase cards, which I think are nice. But it's I'll review it in a couple weeks. But it did not blow my socks off, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
Alhambra, the Red Palace. So I know you sent me this the other when it was up on Kickstarter, and I said no,
Yeah.
thank you, no, thank you.
Yeah, that was an acquisition disorder that we had talked about. I think it didn't make it to the list because like you said, you've been a big fan of Alhambra, but again, I guess there's always going to be a game out there that just hit its wall. And Alhambra's had I can't even count how many expansions Alhambra's had because
Oh my gosh,
Queen does all the little Queenies on top of the regular expansions.
yeah,
Alhambra is a great game. It's building your Alhambra. It's building this little city, and the obviously the number of tiles that you have of particular color is going to score you points. So there's a lot of race for certain colors, and certain colors are worth more than others. And then the downside, unfortunately, happens to be more times than not um, that's about it.
yep,
But there's expansions, good or bad. This one actually adds some variety to the types of buildings that you are trying to purchase and trying to add to your Alhambra. So it adds a different mechanic to it. It mixes it up a bit.
I appreciate that, but I have Mega Box for
Yeah.
Alhambra. It has 45 expansions in the box.
Yeah, but I mean it's only 45.
It's only 45.
I mean, come on.
I've
You
I've played I've played 2 of them. So I don't know.
All right. You, you,
It's
you know, you got to
I
get to
just
a solid 50 here, which this one had like not just one, but like several other stuff in there. So,
I just like Alhambra is not a lifestyle game, so it doesn't need that many versions or ways to play.
uh
Like
huh.
I get it as a designer. Dirk Hen just wants to kind of fiddle. I get it,
Sure.
but I don't want more versions of this. So I did not back.
Aw.
I know it does look cool. The 3D buildings, it does look cool.
Mm hmm.
All right, next up we have My Island. This is from Reiner Knizia. It is My City, basically, which was a legacy city building game, but now you're building an island. You played over 24 games. You build up the island. Things grow over time. It's fun. It is fine by all accounts, um, as was My City. So I don't know that Knizia's. You need a good story,
Mm hmm.
I think, to carry a legacy game. Knizia is a mathematician, so I don't know that's the right guy to do that.
Oh, well.
Um, the next up, we have the Castles of Burgundy Special Edition. I got it. It exists. It's pretty. I like it.
Oh,
It's
lovely.
expensive, but I like it.
Lovely,
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah. Is it different than the game? No, but it's a very pretty version of the game, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the box is it's too big, but it's not quite so big that I couldn't carry it somewhere. It's almost too big. It's smaller than Gloomhaven, it's smaller than Anachrony. I think I could carry this somewhere. So it's okay.
All right. You say that now, but when I ask you to bring it over, I'm going to play back this episode for you. Just saying.
Yeah, but if I bring it over there, I gotta like carry it on the train. And
Yeah. You said you carry it. That's all. Everyone heard it. I have
I
witnesses.
I said I would carry it in general, not to Staten Island.
Ah, come on. All the cool kids are doing it.
All right, next up, Darwin's Journey. I know you play this one a lot.
Yes, I played this, backed it. It took a while to get here. Played it, was okay with it, then played the expansion with it. And folks, if you don't play with the expansion, it's not the best game. It's the best version of the game only if you play with the expansion. And I'm not trying to sell you an expansion. Do not make any money. We're not, as you know,
No,
independent podcasters out here, just all about our people. Uh it needs the expansion. The expansion should have been in the base set because otherwise it is, I don't know. I want to say it's vanilla, but I don't want to make fun of vanilla. Vanilla's pretty cool. People like vanilla. I'm a big fan of vanilla. It's just very basic. It's fine. It's
yeah, yeah,
playable. It's playable with the base thing, but the game itself is all about taking one of, can't remember off the top of my head, 4 or 5 actions, and if 2 of those actions don't really do much of anything or don't do something often enough, you're going to be like, why am I playing this game if only 2 actions are really viable? So
right,
the expansion fixes that, which is awesome, but it should have been in the base game. Just saying.
yeah. I played it once without the expansion, and I immediately texted you afterwards. I'm like, "Am I missing something?" And you're like, "The expansion." I'm like, "Aha, that's what I'm missing." Um,
Sadly, yes.
yeah, I do have the expansion now, so I will play it with that at some point. Next up is Distilled, another game that you play that I have not.
I was surprised. I mean, the distilled theme is not a theme that I typically would be interested in picking up or playing. And sat down and played it. And I thought, thematically, I thought it was a very smart game. And it made me appreciate uh, the alcohol industry, I guess I should say, right? I never thought I would say that on a podcast, but considering the amount of work and the amount of science and artistry and artisans that go into creating all this hard liquor, uh, it's pretty impressive. And the game really makes you feel like you are part of that production at each stage. And then it throws in a little bit of fun here and there as far as like what might happen during the aging process. But the game is never so restricted that you feel like you can't do things. You could always do things in that game. and you could always be building towards something. And then it's a race against the other people at the table to get, uh, I guess the liquor rights for that particular hard alcohol that you're creating. So, yeah, no, worked really well. Thematically, just crushed it.
Awesome. Yeah, this is another one on my shelf that I'm looking forward to playing.
Yep.
Uh, Hegemony, Lead Your Class to Victory. We both have this.
Yes.
Have we played it?
I've played it a bit.
Oh, okay. You beat me.
And yeah, no, I played it a bit, and I say that a bit because it's a lot. So
Yeah.
when I say a bit, that's a lot. And this was probably my most anticipated game. And when I got this, I was not disappointed. I was pretty impressed with whatever, what they had put into the box as far as the components, the graphic design, the artwork, the rule books were good, and all the historical information. Basically, everything here is great. It's just that you need 4 players to invest the time in not just understanding their particular class power set, but also everyone else's to see how they interact. So there is a level of asymmetrical gameplay here that's unique and wonderful. But it is one of those games that you have to have, I hate to say it, you do need to have a group for this.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole 4-player asymmetrical thing is always a tough
It
sell.
is.
This one in particular seems doubly tough. All right, next up, we got a couple that are not out, or what is out we haven't played. Station Fall.
Uh huh.
This is the new Matt Eklund game, who is the son of Phil Eklund. Um, and it is about a space station and all sorts of crazy things going wrong. It was on Kickstarter. It shipped. People seem to like it. I don't think either of us has played this,
Nope.
correct? Nope. Unconscious Mind is not out yet, but I know you did back
I
this, and it
did
was one of
back
your
it.
most anticipated, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's upcoming, my most anticipated. The production, the expansions, the artwork, the hopefully thematic gameplay, like I was just talking about before, hopefully it all does it all very well. And at this point, it seems like from the updates and the rule book out there, it looks like it does. And we even have a friend of ours who worked on one of the expansions. To our surprise, we didn't know he was part of that kind of production, and gave us a little bit of inside kind of thoughts about how it plays out. And yeah, looks good. Hopefully,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not out yet. We don't know if it's good.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those games that it's another one of those Kickstarters where you're going to have to spend all the monies to get the game. So
Yeah.
needs to be good.
Yeah, I hope so for everybody's sake, because I know many people, specifically in your field, who
Yes,
backed this game and are excited about it.
very
So,
much so.
all right. Next up, we have Septima. Staying on the Chris train. This is all
Yay!
you, man.
There you
All these
go.
games are
See,
you.
I back things too. Yeah, I back Septima. I was really looking forward to this. This is Mind Clash Games, all about a witch coven trying to get a new leader, and great production, great artwork. The gameplay is definitely more streamlined and lighter for a Mind Clash game. I think, as Anthony mentioned earlier about Voidfall, it has everything. It the Voidfall game, when it came with Kickstarter, came with every possibility that Voidfall could ever have. Septima is just a game, and I don't mean that in a bad way because the review's coming up, but it's it's not one of typical. It's not one of Mind Clash's typical like blow out the doors kind of thing. This is a very edited, streamlined game. One thing I will say, if you do have it and you haven't played it, don't believe the rule book that like you have to play the base version first. The base version, again, just kind of like Darwin's, is not, there's not enough interesting decisions in there to keep you around. Play with the expansion right off the bat. You're not going to be thrown by it. You'll enjoy it.
Great. Yeah, I look
Mhm.
forward to playing it. Next up, La Granja Deluxe Master Set. This was on Kickstarter early in 2022. It shipped over the summer this year.
Mhm.
And La Granja is a great game. This is a great version of that game. Very pretty, updated, not like the Spielworks Stronghold basic version that had been around.
Sure.
Um, People seem to be really digging it. I don't know that it changed too much in the base, but I know there's some extra stuff they added, expanded in it. Um, so yeah, I did not back it myself. I like La Granja. I didn't like it enough to spend like the $100 to get a new version of it, but I would be happy to play it, or if I saw it somewhere, maybe even give it a give it a spin.
Yeah, I had the original. and then I passed that on to somebody else because I was like, "This is fine, but it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot to do. It's a lot of. It takes a lot of movements to do one or two things."
Yeah.
So I really wasn't interested. I looked at it, but I really wasn't interested in the revised version.
I like the new visual take. It's
Sure.
softer.
Hmm.
Like the old version was really busy. It was hard to look at.
Yeah.
So this is much easier to look at without losing any of the visual information, which I think is important.
Yeah, and that game has a lot of visual information because those
Yeah.
are multi-use cards, and
Yep.
also your player board is basically a multi-use player board because you'll stuff cards north, south, east, and west on that too.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Next up, another Uwe Rosenberg game, Oranienburger Canal. This one was on GameFound. It was a Spielworks game, and it came out early this year. I did get this. I have it. I've played it a little bit. A little bit. It's one of those 1 to 2 player games that it does play it too fine, but I played it solo, and I'm like, it seems like a solo game. So it gives me like Fields of Arl vibes in that way.
Mhm.
So it's got like the glass road mechanic with like the wheel, um, and it's really good. It's not pretty, but it's Spielworks, so I'm not surprised. Um, but it is one of those really solid games that I kind of wish had gotten bigger distribution from a larger publisher because I think people will be talking about like, oh, this is one of Rosenberg's better games, but only so many people got copies of it
Sure.
because Spielworks prints what they need to, and then they're done. All right, next up we have Skyrise. This was the Roxley game, their new kind of update to an old one. They were bringing back Metropolis.
Mhm.
We saw this at PAX last year, and it was like so overproduced for like this really light 2.0 game. But at the same time, we're like, it's pretty, way overproduced, but it's pretty. Um, and I don't believe it has made its way into the world yet. There's like it is shipped out to the backers, I believe, but I don't think it's reached
Yeah.
uh or no, hasn't even shipped to the backers yet. So it's still working on it, despite the fact it's pretty well overdue. But there's a lot of plastic going on, so I'm not surprised.
Gotcha.
Terraforming Mars, the dice game. This was a nice, pleasant surprise. I backed this despite all my best interests, and I was like, I guess I'll back it. And we played it
Yeah.
at Gen Con. We're like, oh, actually, this is pretty good.
Yeah, we played it also several times at our charity event, got a lot of people to play it. Uh, it's again, it's one of those kind of odd, like, "It's Terraform Mars." Kind of. Yes. I don't know. Somewhat. Yeah. Kind of. You roll the dice. Yeah, it feels. I don't know. There's a lot of mixed reactions at the table as far as playing it, but it definitely wasn't one of those, throwaway games, which was glad. I was really glad to see because they could have. And I told the designer this. I'm like, you could have just done anything here, and it's a decent game.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Legacy of You. This is another Shem Phillips game because it can,
Yep.
like twice a year. Um, this is solo only,
Yeah.
and it's about playing as the legendary hero of the Shia dynasty, Yu the Great, who helped stop the impending flood and defended against barbarians in the Shia era of China. So the typical Sam Phillips artwork from Garphill games, but because it's designed as solo only, I have this.
Yeah.
But because it's designed as solo only, it is very streamlined. It's very interesting. It has very high ratings because the people who play it are the direct audience for this type of game. Um, and this kind of falls into Garphill's like historical realm of games. They have a few of those that are based on like historical events rather than like the mythical or legendary fake made up regions that they have for those other stuff. Uh, it's cool. I like that they do this because it's a standalone. It doesn't feel like part of a trilogy. It's relatively short. It's accessible. Good stuff.
Very nice.
Next up, Stellaris: Infinite Legacy. This
Hmm.
game that we thought was vaporware, but apparently exists.
It does exist. At least a demo version of it does exist that I got a chance to sit down at PAX, and I guess I got a mixed reaction on this. Like the actual game board stuff, what didn't knock me out? I was just like, oh, that seems fine. But the whole individual player setup board where you can kind of build your faction by placing cards and all your units and pieces and how it packs up and breaks down. That was just that was a worth the price of admission. I'm like, they were able to do all the things that they needed to do here, and I was really impressed by that.
I'm just surprised it exists,
I
honestly.
again, this is another one of those games where we'll have to have another category. I hope this is terrible because
Yeah,
this was a
yeah.
game that you and I had talked about quite extensively, and I did want to back it. And the rule book was not out. There was no video out about this, and it had one of those like if you back within like 24 or 48 hours, you get a special thing. And I was just like, oh, I want the special thing. But if, sadly, the special thing meant you had to back it really early on at like several $100s. I think it was like 300 some odd dollars. And I was like,
Yeah,
can't do that. Sorry.
no.
So looks cool. Hope it's terrible. And that's a compliment.
Right.
Because again,
Uh,
a lot of space games. Please all be terrible, but a dramata. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm asking.
yes, yeah, just the one I backed be good, the rest be bad.
Yes, please. I mean, it's not too much to ask, you know?
No, that's what I want every day. I go through this list, I'm like, "I didn't back that, is it good?" And you're like, "Yep," and I'm like, "Oh, man.
Damn it. Secondary market? No.
Boo." Alright, the next one is a game that I did back and is not good. So,
Oh.
the flip side of that,
Yeah.
Lords of Ragnarok is the sequel to Lords of Hellas, which
Yes.
is good, and I have that.
Eh,
And s
it's
and so then
fine.
they're like, "Hey, there's a
Yeah.
Norse version with the Viking gods." I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's cool." And I backed that. And then it came in and I tried to learn it like 3 times. I'm like, "Is
Oh.
this nonsense? Is there no rules here?" Um, and if you want a sense of what that actually looks like, go watch the no pun intended or included NPI review
Yeah.
on YouTube. Um, does a very good job of breaking down why this game is like fundamentally bad and a representation of what's wrong with crowdfunding in general.
Yep.
So it's a shame. It still has a 7.5 because again, crowdfunding is bad. So,
All the plastic, none the gameplay.
yep. It is a mess. It is, I think, impossible to learn, and I'm not going to review it, so I'm not going to bother.
There you
So
go.
it's on my to sell list. If you want it, if you want those miniatures, I'll sell it to you.
There you go.
Dune War for Arrakis is up next. This is on a container coming to the US. I just got an email today from Simon saying they're going to be shipping it like mid January.
Mm.
So we don't have this yet,
Aw.
but we will have it in about a month.
Get the Space and Guild on
So
that.
I'm very excited for this with the new movie coming, with playing Dune Imperium lately,
Yeah?
with my son all of a sudden being like, I like Dune. I'm like, okay, great.
Ah.
And with this being like the War of the Ring designers, I'm
Mhm.
like, this game better be amazing because I really want to like it a lot.
And it
And I
had
paid a lot of money for it.
and it has the
So
CMON minis in there, like the little mini minis,
yeah.
which is
Yeah,
great.
little tiny guys. So excited, excited, excited for this. It's coming very soon. All right. Next up, we have Age of Invention. Inventors? Age of Inventors.
Yeah.
Right. I'm thinking of the other game
Yeah.
that came out recently.
Mhm.
This is Age of Inventors, which is about the golden age of invention and all the different types of inventors um, across history. I don't know. So this was on Kickstarter. I did not back this. I don't know a ton about it. I know we put it on the list because it looked interesting,
It,
but then I didn't hear anything this year.
yeah, it disappeared completely, and that kind of worries me because it did come in hot, and then just nobody picked it up as far as of it being of interest for any reason.
Right. So we'll come back to you with that if we get a chance to play it or if it pops back up. Next up, we have Mercurial. This is from designer David Go, who designed Endogenesis.
Mhm.
And it is a very pretty looking kind of mishmash of mechanics game, right? Card and dice manipulation, but a whole bunch of other stuff going on as well. About wizards off in some magical land. It
Yeah,
was on Kickstarter. It looks pretty. It's
yeah,
worth putting on here.
absolutely.
Marvel Zombies. This was one of the bigger Kickstarter campaigns of all time, and it is now shipped. I famously was like, "No, thank you, sir. I'm not interested in this." And then a friendly local game store had ordered a billion copies of it, and so I actually ended up backing it anyways, but like through the local store. But by doing that, I got it for about $200 cheaper than everybody else because I
Wow.
didn't have to pay the shipping because they had their free shipping policy. So
Nice.
So I paid the actual cost from Kickstarter. I didn't pay any of the shipping that went with it. It was still a lot of money, but no shipping. So I was like, that's pretty good. I'm happy with this.
Nice.
Um, it's Zombicide with Marvel, but it's a lot of really cool sculpts.
Yeah.
It's I'm looking forward to playing with my son. We were gonna play last weekend, and then we both got COVID, so that didn't happen. But uh,
Ouch.
it'll be fun to play over the holiday break.
Yeah, and it's just it's good to have some it's it's that kind of fun, right? It's that popcorn kind of just throw it back and enjoy the theme.
Yeah, yeah, and like the new Marvel What If is on Disney Plus,
Yeah.
like for the next 8 days or whatever. How
Yep.
are they doing that?
Mhm.
Um, so I think there's another zombies episode in there too. So
There's
it'll be
always
fun. We'll play it and we'll watch it. It'll be fun.
there you go.
All right. And then last but not least on our list of new game releases, and then we have a few expansions, is the Stefan Feld collection, the ones that exist. I have played one of these. I played Marrakesh with you
Mhm.
at a game retreat. You've played all of them, right?
I have played all of these.
Yes.
I am
So
the
I'll let you take
expansion
it
guy.
from there.
Don't get in my way, man.
Yeah.
All about the
Hamburg,
expansion.
Amsterdam.
Uh-huh.
I backed those. I haven't played them, but
Uh-huh.
I backed them. I have them. Marrakesh, I played with you. I liked it fine.
Yeah.
New York, I wasn't interested in, but
Yeah. They're all fine. They're all not. They're all of them are not better than their predecessors.
mhm.
Marrakesh is the best of all of them. The other ones are okay, but they work really hard to do something different, and they didn't need to do that.
Yeah,
Honestly,
that's a shame.
I'm just gonna say it. I mean, look, we could just do an hour on the whole thing with Queen Games and Feld and the City Collection, and you can listen back to our podcast for the past 10 years. Uh, I listen to a lot of board game podcasts. I don't know many people out there in the board game industry who do media stuff that love Feld as much as we do. And I was tremendously disappointed
Yeah.
because honestly, a lot of these games went out of print and some of these games are not the best. And all he needed to do was just do some updates, do some streamlining, do some tweaks, and maybe give us a different theme, which he did City. Uh, but that's not what happened. What happened was something completely different. It's not horrible. And if you haven't played the originals, these might be perfectly fun and good to get to the table. But I don't know what happened here. And then obviously I don't know what Queen Games was looking for as far as of this being financially viable, but every other version or every other game version of the City series has had less quality components, less deluxified, less giveaways, less extra stuff. So I got off the train. So, which again,
It's
I would
it,
never
it,
think I would, but I did.
yeah. Yeah, these Kickstarters are like I had every Stefan Feld game. I had collected all of them,
Mhm.
even the rare ones. And this is the one where I'm like, "Oh, I'm done. I can't. This
Yeah.
is like once you don't have all of them, you're like, well, I might as well get rid of the ones I don't really like." And so I've actually sold like half of my Stefan Feld games now because why would I continue to collect them if they're going to cost so much money? Like Marrakesh, we played. I didn't hate it. It was like a strong play for me. I would buy that if it was a normally priced game. But to get the version you have
Mhm.
is almost $200,
Yeah.
which is obscene to me. And if you want like the essential edition, which is kind of a much uglier, flatter version of that, it's still $100.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I cannot pay $100 for this game. It should be 50. And I don't know what they're doing. Like they're printing like 20 copies at a time. It's print on demand. I don't know. But we saw the prices at PAX just for the essential editions of these games. And they were 70, 80, $100
Mhm.
for the most basic version. I'm like, I cannot believe they're doing this.
I don't think that they know what they're doing because in the end, for them to re-release the game in an essential edition made no sense. Like they must have been like they left money on the table and they did, but not in
Yeah.
the way they thought they did. Um, don't make a worse version for a slightly cheaper price.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. The slightly is important there.
Yeah.
It's doing a lot of lifting because it was not that much cheaper than the
No,
Kickstarter.
and that's a large part of the problem there.
Yeah. So like the FOMO on this doesn't work because it's so much stupid money.
Yes.
All right. So that's all the games. Now we have 7 expansions as well
Uh-huh.
that were scheduled for release. First up, Arc Nova, at the time called Aquarius, in the end called Marine Worlds. Um, this is the first expansion for Arc Nova. I have it. It doesn't really do much. It has like a 9.0 on Board Game Geek, and I get it because I'm like, it's just more Arc Nova,
Yeah.
but it's just more cards and a handful of like slightly tweaked mechanics in terms of like now you have marine animals, and now you have like this one extra tile you could get from the association board. Okay. Um, there's really not much in the box at all. Like this is not the expansion we're waiting for.
Mhm.
It's not essential by any
No.
means. It's fine if you get it, throw all the stuff in, whatever, but it's not essential.
Yeah, this would benefit from a complete reprint or a Dune Imperium Uprising, where it's like the same game, but they included some of the essential parts, streamlined some other stuff, and cleaned up the artwork.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep, I'd be cool with that. Um, next up, we had Spirit Island Nature Incarnate. This was on Backer Kit, and it shipped out. I have it. It's got 8 new spirits, 20 new aspects, and a whole bunch of other new random stuff thrown in. Um, one of the best games ever made. A lot of new, interesting content for that game. So if you play Spirit Island a lot, this is a great expansion to have. If you don't play it a lot, there's a lot of stuff already in the box.
Yeah,
So I don't know that you need this.
I have so much Spirit Island. I think you might have more than me. I'm not
I
sure.
have I have all of
All
it.
right, so you definitely have
So
more than me.
yeah, I don't need all of it. I don't play it that much, but I have all of
I
it.
started picking up like the deluxe components and things at some point, and I was
Yeah,
just like, I'm picking up a lot of stuff for a game that I have not played as much, you know.
yeah. I play it like maybe 3 or 4 times a year. I'll pull it out solo and play it like a handful of times in a
Sure.
row, and then I put it away for a few months. Why do I have all this stuff? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it certainly rises, and again, I don't know why we haven't. I think we might have done an episode like this. Like there are games that are lifestyle games. I don't think
Yeah,
that this game ever, at least initially, was intended to be a lifestyle game as far as like the amount of game components, cost, but also the amount of time that you really want to invest in it to play it at its top level. Because I
right.
think if you just sit down and sit at the table and just pick up a random faction and just try to play through it, you're going to have a fun time, but it's going to be quite limiting and challenging for you versus like if you think about it, right? If you sit down and like what factions work best with this, which card combinations work best, like it certainly rewards that kind of investment.
Yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of really cool stuff there. All right. Next up, we have War of the Ring: Kings of Middle Earth. Now, this was on the list 3 years in a row, and
Yeah,
it almost didn't make it this year. But I got my copy of this in the mail 3 days ago, so it made it. It is a 2023 release. Kings of Middle Earth. They announced the expanded special super fancy edition, limited edition, whatever they're calling it.
yeah.
Um, that they put the pre-orders up already. It's probably already sold out, and that's coming out sometime next year. But it does exist, so you can play now with the added characters of Theoden and Denethor and Dane and Brand and Thranduil,
Mhm.
all the kings of Middle Earth.
Yay!
Uh, so the they say they're done. They say this is
They're
everything.
lying.
I know they're lying, but they've been working on this expansion for like 3 or 4 years,
Yeah,
and I thought for a while once they announced the card game, they're like, oh, that's what they got distracted by. Like, no, that was a different designer.
yeah.
They just couldn't get this done for whatever reason. So I feel like they might be done because
Alright.
what else are you going to throw in the game unless you
Oh,
start digging into some really like obscure stuff that wasn't actually in the trilogy at all?
yeah. I mean, no game designer, game publisher would do that.
No, well, yeah. Um, I don't know, man. Like I have the Warriors of Middle Earth limited edition.
Mhm,
I pre-ordered this limited edition, which comes with the Lords,
mhm.
but I never had the original game, and now it's like 4 grand on eBay, and I'm like, just reprint that, and
Yeah.
I'll be happy.
I
That'll maybe be the last thing I ever buy. I'll be done. Like,
Sounds good.
yeah. All right. Castles of Mad King Ludwig renovations. Did this come out?
I don't know because after Mad King went gigantic, I just had to step away.
Yeah.
It just knocked me off the table. I was like, "Oh, that's cool. What? No, no, too much, too much, too much." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm sorry I asked for a bigger version. I am really sorry, people. I asked for a bigger version, and now I can't. Nah, just gonna walk away now.
Yeah, it it seems to
It
exist. People are
does.
talking about it. Yeah, no, there's
How do they have
conversations going
table
on.
room for all this stuff?
I don't know. Um, But yeah, renovations. That is a thing that came out that none of us have heard anything about. So
Sadly.
this was a hot game. People really liked it, and then they did that weird Kickstarter, and then I feel like that kind of killed the
It
game.
killed my vibe. I own the game. I own the expansion. I'm trying to remember if there's a second expansion. I own at least one of the expansions, the first expansion, which is I think the moats, and it really fills out the game. And I've liked the game. It's a high play for me because I studied to be an architect. I like the idea of the floor plans coming together, and I think it's an interesting auction mechanic because it does have that I split you choose kind of thing because you set the prices of the different rooms. And I played it with family and I played it with gamers. So like I've been a big proponent of it. And then they came out with the super gigantic, ridiculous deluxe version of it. And I was like, I'd like to buy this, but also, I need to pay for my healthcare.
Right.
It was very expensive. It was very expensive. And, under normal circumstances in an ideal world, I would have bought this and played it on my gigantic, gigantic, gigantic table because I think that's what it would take to,
Yeah.
to play this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Floor. This is a floor
Oh
game.
my
I don't
gosh.
know.
Nope. I'm
The
out.
fact that they still won't show us what it looks like tells me a
On
lot
a
these days.
table. Just show it when it looks on a
Yeah.
table, a normal table. Or I want to go to a convention and see it at a convention. That's all I'm
I think
saying.
they produced a game that can't be played. I think this
That's
would happen.
well, I mean, it was bound to happen. These boxes are getting bigger, bigger.
I know. It comes with free Kalax.
There you go.
All right. Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy, Outcasts and Seekers. These are two new
Hmm.
packs of different races and species. It hasn't come out yet. I think it's coming out at the end of February. So we'll come back to you.
Yeah, definitely
But
needed.
Eclipse,
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it because the other factions I've kind of played out of. So,
yeah, yeah. So like more variability, more asymmetry, always great in a
hmm,
game like that.
yep.
Wonderland's War. Is this a game you ever got a chance to play?
I never did. I heard a lot of good stuff about it. Lots of monies on that end, but have not gotten a chance to get it to the table anywhere. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, I had a copy for a little while that I got used locally, and then I knew somebody who wanted it, and I was like, "You can have it," because I still haven't played it. So, there's an expansion, the Shards of Madness,
Hmm.
that apparently is very interesting. It adds a lot of different mechanics and ideas and thoughts to the game. Um, I think it was part of the Kickstarter, but it's hitting retail. So, that's all I know about it. I don't think it's actually come out yet, but people really love this game, Wonderland's War, which I find interesting because it is like this weird like spin-off offshoot of Alice in Wonderland IP, but not IP. It's interesting. All right, and then last but not least, we have an expansion for one of my favorite games that I didn't think would ever exist, honestly, because Iki is a game that came out in Japan 7 or 8 years ago. I picked up a copy at Gen Con forever ago. Sorry, We Are French finally brought it to the US last year, and then this year they brought an expansion in which they added a whole new market across the bridge. Um, and then like boats and trading and like all sorts of new mechanics, which are amazing. So I don't think I reviewed it on the podcast, but I have had a chance to play through it like with the solo adjusted mode. It doesn't really have an official solo mode, but kind of adjusted. It seems like it's best played at higher player counts because of the way the new mechanics come in. So that's why I haven't really reviewed it, but it does cool stuff. Iki is still one of my favorite rondel based games. The way that you recruit people and then you activate them in various times, you retire them. It's like a cool way to like simulate the lifespan of crafters in this market. And this kind of adds to that. So the fact that it exists is amazing. That they went to Coda and they're like, "Hey, make more stuff for this game from 8 years ago." He's like, "Okay." um, so there you have it. 50 plus games and expansions that came out or did not come out in 2023 and where we landed on them.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a fantastic year for games. It's just a sad thing that so many of them have not come out yet, but hopefully soon because
Yeah.
they look really great and yeah, a lot of good stuff to get to the table. All right, everyone. So that's everything for this week. We all want to wish you a happy holidays, Merry Christmas. We will be continuing to publish episodes each and every week. I know a lot of people take time off from their podcasting. We want to let you know we'll be here for you. So get you through the holidays, get you through the holiday drives, get you through those family events, and maybe, I don't know, let someone listen to the podcast and maybe get them into gaming. Until then, this is Chris.
And this is Anthony.
And we'll save you all a seat at the table. Take care, everyone.
Bye.